To use these AI automations and these integration tools, you first need to really have a sense of how these things work. If you know how these work, you've got experience with them before, you can definitely skip over this. This is going to be kind of a high level introduction to how systems like Make and Zapier work, the different operations that can be done. And then I'm going to give you we're going to talk abstract, kind of high level, and we're going to give you kind of a tangible example to use to understand, kind of hopefully to bring everything home. So integration tool, let me pull this up. Okay. So integration tools, there are a number of these to choose from. And what these logos lack in sort of creativity and originality, they definitely more than make up for in capability. So these tools are able to, and the design of them is to simplify the integration between one technology to another technology. So there's no coding involved. They're all no code systems. They offer integrations with thousands of different technologies. The one we're going to focus on is going to be Make, because Make, the user interface and how it enables you to build, is a lot simpler than, say, Zapier, for example. And if we're talking integration tools, the way these things work, there are really three main components. There's a trigger, there are operations, and then there are outputs. We're going to go through each of these in turn. So triggers are, as you would expect, the thing that kicks off the automation. You can't have an automation without some sort of action that starts the automation off. So there's two main types of triggers that these systems can use. There's a time-based trigger and there's event-based triggers. So a time-based trigger would be kind of what you'd expect. This automation is going to run every minute, every 5 minutes, every hour, at 12 o'clock every night, that kind of thing. You set the timing and the date of when these things run. One common one is, I want to run this integration once every week, kind of a thing. The other version of a trigger is an event-based trigger. And event-based triggers happen when a certain action takes place. For example, someone fills out a form or information is sent to a webhook. So event-based, time-based. We're going to deal a lot with time-based primarily in this automation, but those are the two types of triggers that you've got at your disposal. With these triggers, as soon as an automation is triggered, the other thing that happens is it grabs information from the source that triggered it. So take, for example, a lead form. When a lead form is filled out for the first time, not only does the event actually take place, but a packet of information gets sent over, which would include, say, for example, first name, last name, email address, company. Anything that was a part of that form couldn't come over in that packet. And what this gives you is now you get information in the automation that the rest of the operations can then use, which leads us to the next step here, operations. So operations are specialized functions. They're designed to do one specific thing. And the way they work is data comes over and comes into the operation. The operation is then set up to take that information and do something with it, whether it's converted to this or go out and do this. It maybe connect to a different technology and say, based on this data that I received, find this specific information, pull it back in. So the operations are designed to do one very specific thing. At the end of the operation, what comes out is another packet of data. So the data goes into the operation, it does something, and then another packet of data comes out. What's nice about these operations is you can start stacking them together, because after the first operation, say we go on to the second operation, and that's designed to do a second specific thing. But what we have now is two packets of information that we can utilize as part of that operation. So we've got the stuff that came in the trigger, and we've got the output of that first operation. And so the second operation can use both of those information or different parts of it to do what it needs to do, what it's designed to do. And then after it runs through its whole process, it creates its own little packet of information, and that is now available to the rest of the automation. And we could say it's at the end, but you could actually put outputs throughout an entire automation. But the idea with the output is, once the operations have done what they need to do with the data, the output can actually send that information off to a different technology. Say, for example, one of these operations is to create a blog post. Well, this output can save that blog post to a document on a shared drive. That's what we're talking about with outputs. The information that we've worked through with the operations is now sent off and saved somewhere else. And that's really the long and short of it. There are really only three primary elements to these automation. There's the trigger, there's the operations, and then ultimately there's the output. So let's take a more tangible example. Let's say writing a case study. So when you're writing a case study, the typical process would be you go and capture all the information about the project that was completed. You have someone write a draft of that case study based off maybe an existing template. The draft is then saved to a shared drive and then sent off for review. So if we were to automate that process, the way we can do that is with a automation that looks something like this. And we'll walk through each of these steps as kind of they relate to that kind of higher, that more abstract version that we were just talking about. So the way, let's say, for example, with this case study, maybe we give the client services team a Google form to fill out. And anytime they complete a project, they fill out that Google form that asks a bunch of information we need to create the case study. So for example, what was the name of the project? Where was the project done at? What type of project was it? So on and so forth. The client services team fills out that form, a Google form. As soon as they do, it automatically adds a row to a Google Sheet. Well, that is our trigger. So we set up this trigger to review this Google Sheet let's say every 15 minutes. This automation goes in, checks this Google Sheet for any new rows added. And if it finds one, it grabs all the information in that specific row. So in this case, we're grabbing timestamp, the name, email address, the client name, industry, location, project type. All that information is captured and sent back into the automation. So now that is my first packet of information. The next step of this is to take that information and send it over to an OpenAI assistant, which we'll get into later in the course, but this is the API version of ChatGPT. And we send that information over to the assistant with a written out prompt. And you can see here, I've got specific parts in here that are green. These are the little bubbles that we can take the provided information that we caught with the trigger and feed it directly into the prompt the way I've got it here. And so this prompt is then sent over to the OpenAI assistant, which then does what it does. The operation on the OpenAI side, it actually goes through and it'll draft out the case study based on a template that we provide within the prompt itself. So information about the project goes in, OpenAI does its thing, and it sends back a fully written out draft of that case study. So then the next step here is to save that draft to a Google Doc. So we have this next operation here is to actually create the Google Doc in a shared drive and copy the content from the OpenAI assistant directly into that doc. That doc is saved and what comes back. So information in is the content itself. Information out is information about the doc itself. So including a link directly to it. So then the final step of this, so the output version of this automation is I'm going to now save this information to my project management system. In this case, ClickUp. I'm going to create a task, my project editor to go in and review the case study that I just created or the automation just created. And as part of this, I can set certain information about that task, the status, the due date, who it's assigned to, and include the link to that specific document on the shared drive directly within the task itself. And that's really it. That is the long and short of how these systems work. The information comes in from a Google Drive. We send it over to ChatGPT. It creates the content. The content then gets saved on a shared drive and then posted on a project management tool for the editor to review and approve. That's really how these systems work in a very tight nutshell. The one we're going to create, this content marketing assistant, is a lot more robust. There's a lot more involved. There's a lot more technologies integrated. But if you understand those core concepts, you can absolutely take what we're going to create and improve it, enhance it, adjust it, customize it, however you need to do so.